Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Gridiron Uncensored podcast here with the usual crew. You got myself, Trevor, and Blake. Tonight, we're going to hit up the Pac-12 grades. We're going to go over those, trying to get through this one. We got the Big 12 coming up and then the Big 10. And then we're going to start focusing on other stuff and getting ready for the 2024 previews because spring ball is about to start. I think for some it actually did start already. So that's kind of on the roster for us moving forward. Real quick before we get into that, some more information on the college football game. They said obviously May. It's they're going to have a full reveal, but we've been getting leaks. The teams are starting to put out pictures and graphics, like the front disc cover, and everybody's getting excited. And then all of a sudden, Portland State dropped a cover of, oh, hey, we're going to be in Who Wants to Rebuild a Dynasty with Us. And everybody's kind of like, hold up. Because initially we were like, okay, FCS isn't going to be in until later. It's going to be a downloadable content, DLC type thing. And then these FCS teams started dropping this information. So people are like freaking out. They're bombarding, anybody that might be in the know about this. So the gentleman, Matt Brown, he's a reporter. He's been doing a lot of freelance stuff, but he's been big on the college football game. So he's been asking around, he's been getting information. And tomorrow morning, there is going to be an update on the FCS side of it, and if they're actually going to be DLC or if they're going to be in the initial drop of the game. So a lot of people are excited about that. We'll report more on that once it actually comes out, the information that is. And that's, I think, for 8 a.m. Eastern tomorrow morning. So we'll see. We'll see what happens with that. Guys, anything on that or whatever before we head on into the grades for the Pac-12?
No, I'm just excited. Word to live by right now is excited. I've never been this excited in the college football offseason.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm almost looking more forward to the game than I am the season.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of people that might feel that way. But it's just we've been waiting for so long. Yeah, the nostalgia of it. We've been waiting for so long. Finally getting little releases, little snippets. So it's exciting. And the more that comes out, the more pictures, and it just, like you said, excited, gets you going. Let's talk about the Pac-12. Again, we're doing our grades for the seasons. These are based on kind of like how the over-under went for the team, also our expectations, and just the season in general. What our expectations for a good season are. So that's how we grade. Each one's different. We don't have a scale. We don't have, like each one of us we're all doing our own thing. We got our own grades. So read them and weep. And if your team sucks, get over it. So let's start off again like we've been doing. We're starting at the worst and we're going to the first. Okay. So the first one's up. Colorado. Oh man, everybody's darling at week 1, 2, and 3. Boy, they were all over it, man. I mean, I get it too. They beat TCU, who was the national title runner-up last year, or the year before, and everybody's kind of, again, you don't know what to expect. This was a weird team because it was mostly built out of the portal from Coach Prime. His first season there. He brought in, Travis Hunter. He brought in his son Shedeur. A lot of players from all over the country. Nobody knew how this thing was going to actually be. And then they went out and won 45-42 against TCU. And then they beat Nebraska. And we were like, okay, Nebraska, maybe. I don't know. We don't know Nebraska yet. And then they went to double overtime with Colorado State. We were like, okay, hold up. We're like this is not sustainable the way this offense and defense are playing. But people were, hey, they're winning 9 games. They're winning 10 games. Let's pump the brakes just a little. And then they went and got smoked by by Oregon. Tight games with USC. Lost to Stanford in double over. Just a freaking weird season. They had an over/under of 3. They went 4-8. So I mean, they beat that. 80th ranked offense, 127 ranked defense. I gave them a D. They went over 3 wins. That's good. But just a sloppy season. And probably more to come next year. I don't know.
I gave them an F. You get
thank
robbed.
you, freaking thank you, thank
Oh
you.
my god,
They did nothing worthy of anything other than an F. I mean, wow, you beat all the teams they beat went what, like 5-7, 4-8. So I mean, it's not like the teams they beat were these phenomenal, guys or anything.
yeah,
And I just don't like the atmosphere there. I don't like the players, the attitude, I just don't, it doesn't jive with me, and it just doesn't feel like the beginning of a dynasty like they want it to be. So I gave them an F.
I didn't give them an F minus just because Brendan gave them a D. Anything makes me want to put the minus on there. I'm
throw it
just
on
saying.
there. Throw it on there.
I'll tell you what. You know what? F it. We're throwing it on there. F minus for the Colorado fake Buffaloes.
Oh, the fake Buffalo, the fake
I don't know. That sounded better in my head than it did coming out.
Give them
Yeah,
an
it
E.
usually does. Well, we can't
Oh,
edit,
man,
so we're
no,
just gonna
like,
roll
I
on
mean-
with it.
I mean, y'all know, and anybody that's listen to the show, like I was excited for Colorado for the fact that it could be something special, and then it just got like, it's like watching a train wreck, and there's nothing you can do to stop it. It's just there's going to be a big old wreck at the end of the line, and unfortunately for Colorado, that's the fact of the matter, and that's what it is. And it is Coach Prime. It's his fault. It's his show, and he's a joke. He's made college football a joke.
Oh yeah,
He's legitimately a disgrace, and he's made that team into a bunch of individuals, and everyone that watches their games clearly sees that he is making sure the game plan highlights his son and only his son. He doesn't, and maybe Travis Hunter, because it's like the son he never had type of thing, or like whatever. You know what I mean?
I don't disagree at all.
yeah. No, I think a lot of people felt that way. I know Blake mentioned that. There's rumors on the internet that Shedeur would run around and he would take sacks just so he didn't get bad passer ratings and all this.
And he'd get pats on the back for it.
Yeah,
That's the worst part about it. He said he was everything's okay. You can do that. Doesn't help the team at all. And there's players that came out after the season like it was just individualistic. There's no team atmosphere with that team at all. And I mean, even with some of the recruits this recruiting cycle, they were even talking like that. They were talking like it's all about me, and it's if you don't go there, you're not a certain race. It's just like it's absolutely unconscionable what the way Coach Prime has allowed this atmosphere to kind of snowball on him, because I don't know Coach Prime for a hole in the wall, but I would say that I feel like he wouldn't be that way, because I mean, he's supposed to be a coach and a leader of men or young men. So why would you alienate any sort of person or player? But I think that's just the way he is. He's treating the Colorado Buffaloes as like how you would treat a pro team, that every player is expendable on a college team. And it's not supposed to be that kind of atmosphere, I feel like. And maybe that's me kumbaya in a little bit, but I'm just saying, like,
I
these are 18 to 21-year-old kids. Like, I'm just saying, like, these kids are looking at this coach as one, he's an icon. I won't take that away from him. He's an icon. So a lot of these kids, I'm sure, look up to him. And I just feel like he's not doing them right.
Yeah, it was something at the beginning when he first came in. I thought that he was kind of doing a good thing, because at first he sat in there and he was like, "Hey, if you don't want to be a part of this, you don't want to, put in the work, then get out." I can dig that, type of mentality. But then, like you said, it got into the individualism, like, just everything just kind of kept snowballing, like you said. And then his season went to hell, So you're just hoping that maybe he can, maybe redirect the ship here, but it seems like that's just what it is going to be. I don't know. They're loading up again in the portal this year. 2024 might be the same thing. He swears they're going to make the playoffs, so I don't know. We'll see their prime. We'll see what happens.
I'll be happy if they can pull off a winning record.
I hope they lose every game.
I mean,
hey,
yeah.
they get hate for a reason. It's the attitude. And
the publicity is going to help Colorado. I mean, I get that. Look, Prime has done a lot of good things with that university, but the team atmosphere that he's created, or not for lack thereof, that he's created is not a good thing.
Yeah, and I'll say it's not that it can't change. He just needs to redirect focus. Like you said, the publicity's been great. I mean, hell, we're still talking about him. We spent so much time on the show in the first couple of weeks of the 2023 season talking about Colorado. So he did that. But we'll see what he can do in 2024 with, again, new roster, but he still got talent sitting there with him. So it'll be interesting to see. Let's move on. Arizona State, they had an over-under of 5. Kenny Dillingham came in, first year. Really no expectations from this team. They were, they finished 3-9, 2-7 in conference. 2022, they lost a lot of people. They had a kind of tough schedule, for them. So it was just kind of like, I don't know what do you give these guys? I gave them an F, because I don't know. It's Arizona State. I expect a little bit more from them in that program. But I mean, then you go lose to Colorado. You lose to, Cal. I mean, I probably could have given Colorado an F, but I don't know. I gave them a D. For me, though, they were the worst team in the conference. Arizona State lost to them, failed them.
I also gave them an F. The self-imposed sanctions they had, there was no expectation really on my end for the team. I expected them to suck. They did take a couple of bigger teams to the wire. Washington just couldn't pull off an upset. But, with no expectations and you put sanctions on yourself for a scandal, they lost a lot of players. There was nothing there for them to do anything with.
Yeah, I mean, Arizona State's a frustrating team for me because I feel like they have, as far as the recruiting dynamic of everything, I think they have a lot of potential. It's just, I just feel like they just kick themselves right in, they just shoot themselves in the foot every chance they get. It's like they're a running joke of the NCAA at this point, because every time they start getting somewhere with recruiting, with just having a good record or good offense, something always seems to happen to Arizona State to derail anything positive that they have going on. And I'm not sure how you change that. Maybe change the administration altogether, and from top to bottom, and just redo everything. I know it's not feasible to do in 1 year, but I mean, maybe change the AD, which I think they are changing that. I'm not positive, but I'm pretty sure that they're bringing a new AD into, or maybe that's Arizona. No, Arizona's bringing in an AD from Mizzou. That's right. Sorry, my bad. Arizona State, whatever.
That'll help. That'll go well.
Yeah, that'll go real well.
What Forrest says about you.
Oh boy. Anyway, I digress. Sorry. But like I said, it's just one of those things where they were disappointing, no doubt about it. The record was it's an F for me. Obviously, I don't think I actually said my grade, but yeah, it's an F, 100% for me. And I hope they have better, because one, I definitely like that. I like the stadium that they play in. I like their uniforms and the different variations that they come up with. Like, all of that stuff's really cool. I just like them to start doing better, because I think that they have the potential, and the recruiting area that they're in, I feel like should be they should be able to bring in better talent.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think Arizona State both have plenty of ability to be powers, especially in the new conference. There's a void left by Texas and Oklahoma, and you're going to look for teams to try and become the big dogs of that conference. And that they're one of them, that they have an ability, but they have to do it. I think Kenny Dillingham is probably going to do an all right job. He's got the mentality that I've seen. He even today he spoke on how people are talking about leaving the college football because of the schedule and all this stuff, and he's like, stop bitching about it. Stop whining, man. It's figure out a way. If you don't like recruiting, delegate, do something. He's that's what he's getting at. He's like, I'm here. I've worked hard. My job is this, and I'm going to do it. So I respect that mindset. So hopefully that can translate to wins for Arizona State. And again, love their uniforms. They're cool. Let's talk about Stanford. A fallen giant for a little while. They were doing really well under Harbaugh, and then Shaw, and then it just kind of faded off into the sunset again. Over under of 3.
Faded off. It fell off a flipping cliff.
It faded with Sean, then it dropped. Because Sean did good, and then it was like just consistently getting worse and worse, and then boom. But again, look at their over under. It's a 3. Okay, again, no expectations for this team. They're gonna suck. It's you hate to say it, but that's just what it is. They finished 89th in offense, 129th in defense, 3-9 overall, 2-7 in conference. You could tell in the start of their season, they went up to toe to toe with Hawaii, and they beat them, but it was barely, it was close, And you're just like, okay, this season's gonna be really tough for them. Got blown out by everybody. Lost to Sacramento State. I mean, come on, Sacramento freaking State. They did somehow beat Colorado in overtime, though. That was a pretty cool game to watch. That was really enjoyable. And then they snuck a win in against Washington State. I gave them a D- because of the Washington State win, and then of course knocking off Colorado again, taking them down a peg. That made me happy. So I gave them a D-. Troy Taylor, he's got time. He needs to have a little bit more time to build this program and try to get them relevant again. New conference in 2024 with the ACC, so that'll be interesting. Watch out for Stanford, man, moving forward.
I gave them a D. Probably should have been an F, but I gave them a D for the same reason you did. The Washington State win, the Colorado win. They did play Washington close, but that Sacramento State loss, that should be an automatic F. But I'm partial to Stanford because I do like their uniforms and I like their stadium. Using a line out of Brendan's playbook, so that's a positive for them. Finish them off with a D.
Man, everybody on the freaking Pac-12 payroll at this point. What the hell's going on? That's a solid F from Stanford. Like, I don't even understand what we're talking about right now. This is some bullshit. Like, what the hell? What the hell's going on right now? Oh my God. We're out here on the east side of the country and we're talking about D's for Stanford. I don't even understand that.
They always get slandered, man. That you gotta give them something.
Well,
maybe
they're
not.
A bunch of prima donnas in this. Oh, Stanford's the Harvard of the West Coast and all this other crap. So yeah, no, F all day long. Stanford, Harbaugh had Stanford as a consistent power. Shaw did okay. Wasn't the recruiter that Harbaugh was at the time. And really at the end of the day, they just let the administration, at some point, Stanford's administration will have to make football a priority, make sports a priority if they really want their program to be any sort of relevant. Otherwise, I mean, why even have a football program at Stanford? I mean, really, it's the most asinine thing I've ever seen, where they just don't pour enough into the football program, or the basketball program for that matter. Like they both programs used to be really good, and it's just fallen off a freaking cliff over the past decade, and it's quite ridiculous to me. And that's just where I sit with Stanford. I would love to see them better and be powerhouse again, because I think football in general, when you have parity all across the country and have powers all across the country, not just standard USCs and your Michigans, your Alabamas, your Clemsons, all that stuff. When you have these ones like Stanford that are getting in the top 5 in the country, it benefits all the conferences. It benefits the NCAA as a whole. And that's why they get an F for me, because they need to do better. Stanford, do fucking better.
I mean, what else do you say about it? Yes, they need to do better, and sadly, they're not. I hope that Troy Taylor can turn it around, because it is like Trevor said, it's cool to have these programs be good everywhere, and then seeing administrative issues, whatever. I mean, hell, they even helped take down the Pac-12. Now they're at the ACC, and the ACC might implode soon. So who the hell knows what's going on? But yeah, for all the complaining that they do, they sure suck at the sport that they're trying to mess with. So do better, Stanford. Let's talk about Washington State. This is at the beginning of the season. I think we all thought they could maybe do a little something. They had Cam Ward, which was a really interesting quarterback. Talented. They started off. They went and played Wisconsin and won. They beat Oregon State, which we were all, I think, fairly high on as dark horses or even contenders in the league. Once they beat them at that week 4, we were like, oh man, this Washington State team might be something to watch out for in the Pac-12, or at least cause some big upsets. And then they had a bye week, and then everything fell off the rails. Lost to UCLA, lost to Arizona, lost to Oregon, lost to Arizona State, Stanford. You're losing to the worst teams in the conference. And then you go beat the worst team in the conference in Colorado. Tight game against Washington late. Just a weird season for them. Cam Ward had no help. Anytime you'd watch that, they really had no assistance for him from the talent, the skill positions. So I gave them a D- as well. They did have 35th offense, which is really good. 78th defense. Cam Ward did all that alone, it seemed. So yeah, D- for them.
I went with a C- just because of Cam Ward's ability. I know they didn't get all the wins that they needed, but just putting the team on his back how he did, he was the reason for any sort of moral victory they had this year. The 6-game losing streak, though, after the bye week, there's just nothing to reward there for me. You said it. He had no help. There was nothing on that offense giving him anything to work with other than the plays he made himself. So we're going to go with a C-.
C-? Wow. Okay. That's it. It's official. These boys are on the payroll of the Pac-12.
We're pocketing that money, baby.
No, you pocketing that money. Short story is it's a D- for me. Long story is this might be the most disappointing team in all of college football. With the way they started, with the hype that was happening, the way that Cam Ward was playing, and the way the team was playing in that first part of the season, they were playing on all cylinders and playing really good football. So yeah, I would have to say that out of all of the teams in the Pac-12, Washington State takes the cake as far as the most disappointing team, especially in the Pac-12, maybe in the country. That's just where I D-, but it might have been an F for me. Now I'm getting myself worked up. So now,
retroactive.
I want to change it to an F. Now I want to change it to an F. But because I was really looking forward to seeing Washington State do well and really compete for a Pac-12 title. And it just obviously didn't come to fruition. And it was just one of those things where it didn't make any sense. Like you said, Brendan, like it just fell off a flipping cliff after the bye week. And it made absolute no sense. Why? Like, I mean, either the coaches just gave up doing game plans, or like all of a sudden Washington State looked like freaking South Carolina after that bye week, like where it was the quarterback and then a bunch of whatever Division III football players playing around there. Like he's just running around like a chicken with his head cut off. Like it was the most insane thing I've ever seen as far as a fall off goes.
Yeah, I mean, I get it. UCLA was good. Arizona's good. Oregon's good. I could see dropping 3 of those games. And I say UCLA was good. They had a good defense. Offensively, they had struggles. We'll talk about them soon. But Arizona had just come on, after Fafita got in. Oregon had been good all season. But then you go and lose to Arizona State, Stanford, Cal. Like, what? So, yeah, I don't know. Frustrating team, especially after their start. So, yeah, we're going to go on now and hit up California, another team that is now in the ACC. It's just, again, strange. How does Cal find a team or a conference to go to, but Oregon State or Washington State don't? That's crazy to me. But nonetheless, they are Cal. So maybe the name brand carries a little bit more. But either way, Cal. Let's talk about them. They went 61st overall in offense, 102nd in defense. Really bad there. Over under 4.5. So again, not great expectations, but they did exceed them. They went 6-7 overall. And they did end up losing to Texas Tech in the bowl game. But they almost beat Auburn, So I mean, that's something. Auburn wasn't great, but they weren't horrible. Some say they're better than others. I don't know. It's Auburn, but they almost beat them early in the season. But then they lost Washington, Oregon State, Utah, all the teams that you expect them to lose to. So I gave them a C-. They did exceed expectations of the over-under. They did make a bowl game. So, for Cal, I'll give them a C-.
I went with a C. They were a trash team. Auburn is a trash team. Auburn lost to New Mexico State.
Fair.
If Cal had to beat them, it's a different conversation, but they didn't. And that was a home game for them, I believe. I think Auburn went out west, which they belong out there. That they fit in with their lifestyles here. But there just isn't much going on at UC there. They're trash. That's what I wrote on my notes. Cal equals trash. C.
Well, that was a confusing set of statements y'all did there. C's all across the board, but I'm going to give them a D, but I still am optimistic about Cal. So apparently I'm just a harsh grader.
No, I mean, hey, I like it. Why are you optimistic about Cal?
Because it's Cal. Because it's Cal. It's the birthplace of Marshawn Lynch. It's where Aaron Rodgers came from. I'm just telling you that they have a good, strong history of football. I just think that being out where they are, and if they have it, once again, I truly believe this. I have no facts to back this up, but I truly believe this is that Cal, Stanford, and a few others out west, it has everything to do with the administration not being all in on the football program.
Yeah.
And being more concerned with the education. Not that that's not important. Of course it's important. But I'm telling you, if you want to, one feeds the other. Like if the football program is doing great, everything gets trickled, like the football program's success gets trickled down to everything else you want to do as a university. So that's the only thing that I'm going to say about that is, like, I really truly believe that if Cal puts their 100% all in on football program with the recruiting, with NIL, with everything, they can be back to where they were maybe, top 10. They could be a top 10 team at some point if they recruit properly. I truly believe that, just because it's out in California and there are awesome athletes out west that they could tap into, I just feel like they aren't recruiting well. And then they need to use the transfer portal, and they definitely need to use NIL. It's just, I think with a lot of these schools, it's the administrations that aren't all in as of yet with the transfer portal and NIL. Yeah. They aren't supportive of it. They're not, they're grasping to a past that no longer exists. And that's just the way I look at it at this point with them.
No, I mean, I agree with you. I think we see that with a lot of schools in the nation. But you mentioned it out west. all those teams in the Pac-12 or formerly Pac-12, they should have an entire lockdown on that entire side of the country. They are so far away from the SEC and from the Big Ten. There's no reason that they can't go out and lock down everybody out there. Except, like you said, administration. They care so much about academics and standards, and they just don't care. I mean, they can't fill their stadiums on game day. They schedule games at weird times. It's just they need to revamp the administration, and I think you could see a lot of these teams be really good. I mean, they're name brands. You recognize them all. You know them. Mm-hmm. I think there's more to be had from those teams in Cali, especially. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe that's a topic for another time, breaking down that and why the administrations suck in so many schools. Anything else on Cal before we drive on, gentlemen? Yeah, they're forgettable. I like Cal. I like their colors, obviously, the uniform. I hate their mascot. He freaks me out. Pure nightmare fuel. That needs to be nuked immediately. Let's talk about a team that's probably in some deep trouble going into 2024, but who knows? And that's UCLA. Okay. Over under of 8.5. So there were some expectations there. They lost Dorian Thompson-Robinson. That's a tough one to say, I guess. And then they also lost Zach Charbonnet to the draft. So they lost talent. They did bring in a 5-star in Dante Moore that they were hoping that he could step in right away, but that's not easy for a 5-star freshman to do. Okay. You don't see that often unless they're super elite and, maybe the schedule is favorable. They came in, they had 3 straight wins, and then they played Utah, who had a strong defense. Offense was bad. It was 14-7, just a kind of a mess. Nothing crazy, but it was defensive battle. And then they go beat Washington State. They lose to Oregon State. They beat Stanford, beat Colorado. And then you get some losses to Arizona State and to California at the end of the season. Just a weird season for them. Again, mixed up in quarterback changes. Just nothing spectacular. They did hit 8-5 overall. So, I mean, they hit their over under, not horrible, but they could do better with being UCLA. That's another team. Sleeping giant. Like something's got to wake them up. I gave them a C-. 32nd offense, 10th defense. Could do more.
I went with a B- for UCLA. They had a solid defense. At times, quarterback play looked decent. Like you thought they was going to finally get it going, but just never did. Offensive line didn't play that well. So all of my accolades to them go to the defensive side of the ball.
Mm-hmm.
When you have 3 quarterbacks, you have no quarterback.
Yeah.
So that was all of their offensive woes there. And you just don't expect that out of Chip Kelly. But that's what happened with them. But I still think, despite the bad offensive play, they still played well most of the season, and they had opportunities to win a lot more games than they did. But it just never really jived and came together for them. So we'll go with a B-.
Yeah, I definitely see a B- for them. I didn't give them one, but I do see where you guys are coming from.
I love it.
So I gave them a C. I gave them a C only because Chip Kelly when Chip Kelly's your coach, you kind of comes with a bit of expectation. And I had a higher expectation for the offense. And Blake, you said it. You hit the nail on the head. When you have 3 quarterbacks, you don't have any. If you can't make up your mind, and Chip Kelly, I would say probably one of the better offensive minds in our generation of football, at least. To sit there and not be able to make any of the quarterbacks work, it says a lot about the caliber of players that they're getting into UCLA, and part of me kind of thinks, and I know we talked about it a little bit on a previous show, that I'm starting to think that it might be a good thing for UCLA's program that Chip Kelly is no longer there.
Yeah.
And the reason I say that is because he's notoriously hates recruiting. He notoriously hates the whole NIL stuff. He definitely wants players to get paid. He just doesn't want to deal with the players getting paid and dealing with all that, which is why I think that's why he went back to doing the OC stuff. So the way I look at it right now is that I think that if UCLA's, God, I feel like I'm just saying this over and over because I feel like every West Coast team I feel like has the same issue except for maybe like the top 2 or 3 teams or maybe 4 teams. But I feel like, again, UCLA's administration doesn't value their football program as they should. So I'm hoping, even though the hire is the new coach, Sean Foster, while he's a UCLA guy, a UCLA legend, he is a coach. He doesn't have any head coaching experience. I think he was an interim head coach like for a blink of an eye. I think it'll be good for recruiting purposes. So we'll see. Only time will tell on what he can do over these next couple cycles of recruiting, NIL, transfer portal, I mean. And then hopefully he can get that administration on board with the NIL stuff. Because like I said, just in the previous little segment there, it's like I just don't think that most administrations are on board with the NIL stuff just yet. Once the rest of the country catches up with the top tier teams with the NIL, though, I think that college football is going to be better for it.
Yeah, I'd say for Foster being the coach, and he said his emphasis is NIL and getting this program back on its feet. Now, they're recruiting well. I mean, it's just they got to put it together. And like you said, I think Chip Kelly, he's another one of those old time coaches that's just like, no, too much work. I'm done. I'm going to go be an offensive coordinator and just call plays. So be it. Maybe you guys are right. UCLA is better off for it. And we'll see if maybe Chip Kelly's happier that way too. I don't know. We'll see how he does at Ohio State. But yeah, I think there's a lot for UCLA to improve on, and they can do it. Just got to sit down and knock it out. A team that I think is going to be really good in the Big 12. They've got a great head coach, one of the best in my opinion, in Kyle Whittingham. We're talking about Utah. Okay. Utah in 2023 left a lot to be desired, in my opinion. Obviously, the whole offseason, when's Cam Rising going to be ready? What's Cam Rising doing? It was like the first 6 weeks. All right, he's game time decision. And then finally they're like, okay, well, he's out for the rest of the season. We're just going to go on and see what the hell happens this year. Then 8.5 over under, 92nd finished offense, and 13th defense. We knew they were going to have a good defense. Whittingham always has a good defense. But the mixed quarterback play. Bryson Barnes, he beat Florida early, and everybody's like, oh, man. First play from him was like a 70-yard bomb. And everybody's like, oh, snap. Look at this team. They're going to be something. And then they barely beat Baylor. And it was just nasty work. I mean, that whole game was disgusting and not in a good way. You know what I mean? They played Weber State. UCLA beat them. They lost to Oregon State, lost to Oregon, Washington, Arizona. So, I mean, they lost to the teams that you expect. The Oregon State game was kind of one that I thought maybe they'd be able to, beat them, but they didn't. And I gave Utah a C just because it left so much to be desired from that team with such a strong defense.
Yeah, this Utah team will go down as the what could have happened team of Utah. The Cam Rising thing, I'm not going to just beat a dead horse with it, but, I said earlier on one of our episodes, we don't know what would have happened even had he played because, if he'd have come in week 3 or 4, would he have meshed well? I mean, we don't know. We'll never know. But he was expected to have a huge impact on Utah. A lot of people had him winning the Pac-12. A lot of people had him going even into the playoff. It's the what if. We will never know. I gave him a B just because of that defensive play. The offense was so vanilla from Utah. there was nothing exciting about that team offensively. And that kind of makes me lose a little respect a little bit for Whittingham. I just feel like as the head coach, your guy's not going to play. I just feel like you should have been able to throw something better together than some of the game plans he put out on offense. And so it's a little disappointing, but he did have that star-studded defense that you expect him to have. And that's what kept him in most of the games. So I went with a B.
Once again, Trevor coming in with the harsh grade. Here we go. So I gave them a C. But only because even though Cam Rising didn't play, I thought they were playing pretty good ball. It's just I didn't feel that they were playing all 4 quarters. And like Blake said, the offense was vanilla. Defense was great. Defense won them plenty of the games that they did win. And at the end of the day, that if you can't play complementary football, it's not going to work. That goes for any team. It's not just Utah. And I think that they're doing great things at Utah, and them being in the Big 12, I think provides a big opportunity for Utah, Cam Rising, Kyle Whittingham to really get put on the map. I think maybe being out in the Pac-12, people kind of write them off. But I think within the Big 12, because I feel like almost every team is like the Utahs of the world. Like they're all kind of that mid to upper grade, or could be that mid to upper grade. And there's like probably like 10, 5, 7 teams that kind of fit that mold. So it's going to be interesting to see if they can take advantage and kind of set themselves apart, and maybe even first year come out with a Big 12 title. I think that's something that is definitely within their grasp if they can fix that offense and the way they're doing things, because it wasn't working this year.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of some of the Jim Harbaugh teams where you had like John O'Corn playing, and you're just missing a quarterback, and you're like, this guy can only do so much. So we're just going to try to, make it work. Defense keeps you in a lot of them, but you lose the ones that you're like right there. Oh, that's a 50-50 game, and you lose them. That's how this Utah team felt to me. Was like the John O'Corn years. So I don't know. I'm excited for Utah. I really like the Big 12. I know people, crap on it. Oh, it's not, where's the marquee teams? I don't care. I think it's going to be one of my favorite conferences because it's so wide open. People are going to crap on them. Oh, these teams suck. I don't know if they suck. I just think they're going to beat each other up. You're going to knock each other down because they're all so similar in talent levels. And, I'm just waiting to see which team takes that next step. And we'll talk more about, Big 12 and all that later, next episode actually. But I'm excited for Utah and these teams from West moving into that conference. It gets me going a little bit. Let's talk about a team that sadly got left out of the conference realignment. And until who knows, I mean, nobody knows what the hell is going to happen with realignment moving forward. But Oregon State, to me, this was my disappointing team. They're the dark horse. They were a contender for me. DJU coming in helped add that level to bring them up a notch. Now, obviously, DJU is DJU. I think he did a little bit better than what he did at Clemson, considering the talent he had at Clemson compared to what he had at Oregon State. Was better at Clemson, obviously. But I thought that they had a good chance here. And then when they lost to Washington State, so okay, they can afford that one. Because at the time we thought Washington State might be solid. Well, then they went and they lost to Arizona, which turned out to be a really good team. They lost to Washington. They lost to Oregon. They lost to Notre Dame in the bowl game. No, I don't really count. I mean, obviously the bowl game counted, but they lost everybody because this was after the realignment and the portal, ravaged their team. But it's just one. They lost to every good team that they played that had a pulse on offense. So it was just disappointing for me. I gave them a C. Their over-under was 8. 45th offense, 39th defense. So, yeah, I don't know. Disappointing. C+ is what I gave them.
I also went with a C plus. It was just a sad finish to what started off to look like a great season. You know, I could pretty much just repeat everything you said. I'm not going to do it. You're very good at taking the words out of my mouth, evidently
Sorry,
tonight.
buddy.
It's killing me. It's killing me.
Sorry,
Well,
man.
that's just what happens when everybody thinks the same thing. It is what it is.
You got
I
same
mean,
brain
they
syndrome.
did start off hot. Yeah, I mean, it happens, man. Uh, I like Oregon State. I've played dynasties with them on our games when we was younger. I've always liked them. I'm a fan of beavers. I love beavers. I know a guy that looks like a beaver.
Oh,
and a goat man.
You want to drop the names or no? No, let's leave those out.
No. but yeah, I am a fan of Beaver, and they started off good. You always want to cheer for them. Getting DJU out there, you got a good quarterback. Everything looks like it's going in the right direction. They get up about to break the top 10, and then they cannot finish the season. They lose their coach. Players are running out of Corvallis. It's just it's a sad situation, and it's something that you hate to see, and it doesn't do good things for college football. So, but I went with a C plus for them. Just I couldn't give them worse than that because they did have a successful season. Just it did not finish the way that it should have.
Yeah, it definitely didn't. I went with a C for the Beavs, and really, I mean, so yeah, you guys basically took every cotton picking point I made a note on. So, whatever. I mean, the Beavs, they queefed all over their season. So, I mean, whatever.
Oh my God, we gotta get that one out to some Oregon State fans. Let's see what they say.
Because I mean, oh man, it was a bad season. Like it started out good, positive, whatever, la di da, and then there's whatever, they shit the bed, and here we are with C grade and basically no team to field next season. So
yeah, I mean they were poached.
Yeah. And what makes matters worse is they were poached, but their coach got hired by Michigan State, which is literal lateral move, maybe worse, depending on how you look at it. And then the quarterback, their freshman quarterback followed the coach there. So yeah, it was just the hits kept on coming for Oregon State. All kidding aside, though, I do feel for them and the fan bases, because like this is one of the reasons why I wish that transfer portal had a little bit more rules on like what can happen. I get when the coach leaves, but I mean, I think they had like 2 or 3 players follow the coach to Michigan State.
Yeah.
And I'm not positive on that. I know the quarterback, obviously, because he was a highly touted. Yeah, he was a highly touted quarterback. So I don't know. I feel for Oregon State, but I think that at the end of the day, they'll be okay as soon as they figure out what conference they're going to play for.
Yeah, especially with the new, 12-team playoff. For me, that's one that you could still, as Oregon State, as Washington State, you could get that 5th automatic qualifier since they're playing with the Mountain West. I mean, go win there. Just keep racking up wins and go 12-0. And there you go. You're sitting at, probably getting in the playoffs. So I don't know. I wouldn't hang around personally, but everybody else pops smoke. Let's talk about a total failure of a team. And everybody should know what I'm talking about here. And they finished 4th in the conference. Absolutely disappointing. USC. Failures, they're horrible. Like they had an over-under of 9.5. They finished 10th ranked offense in total offensive yards and everything. the 116th worst defense in the country. Okay, awful. Now there have been firings and all that, but after the portal, they brought so many people in, and they fail. So I know they still went 8-5. You know, how do you say that's a failing season? It's not, but it's pretty damn close for what they had. I gave them a D-. It just, you know, they had so much and they blew it away. So I got nothing to say about them. They need to do better for being the brand, and they need to get ready for Big Ten play.
I did give them the F just because you have the reigning Heisman Trophy, the reigning Heisman Trophy winner. Hey, well, he was a trophyman too. You have a guy on your team.
New word.
He is demanding that he gets like shares of an NFL team. He's got, you know, he wears nail polish. He's got all of these great things going for him in his life. He's held in his own eyes as the greatest collegiate athlete ever. But aside from all of that, you have what's considered a top coach in college football. You had multiple pundits expecting you in the playoffs, winning the Pac-12, and you come out and throw an 8-win season together. You know, I'm not going to give it to you. It's an F all the way around for me. That having a defense with a team like USC that's ranked outside of the top 100, that's there's not even a word for that. Probably trophyman. That's probably the word for it. So
pulling a trophy. I'm gonna write that down.
Yep.
Trophyman.
Yeah, I mean, I don't disagree with you. But I did give them a C.
What?
So
hold on.
I don't know what I was thinking.
You shit on us all night about our grading, and then you give them a C.
I ain't gonna lie to you. After you guys gave your grades, I was like, "Oh, this is gonna get bad for me really quick."
God, dog, man.
Oh man, I really thought you guys would at least give them a C, but hey, I'm okay with the F. Yeah, I'm on team F with them, but I mean, I'm still giving them a C because I already gave my grade. So there is that. So, but no, you guys are right. All the way across the board. Former Heisman Trophy winner, like you said. Lincoln Riley, Mr. Masterful Offensive Mind. Yeah, just like it's and the stuff with Caleb Williams is cringeworthy. I really hope that nobody in the NFL drafts that mofo. I really don't. I don't think he deserves to play in the NFL. I think whoever does draft that kid is going to regret it almost immediately. But I don't know. I mean, if you play well in the NFL, that's all that really matters to them. They don't really care about your character, apparently. Yeah, USC was a train wreck. It doesn't seem to be. I don't know. Lincoln Riley's gonna have to do some changing. Maybe getting Caleb Williams out is like the old adage, addition by subtraction.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. So I hope that'll be the case here going forward.
I mean, there's already been some movement. They've lost Malachi Nelson, the backup quarterback. They've lost some other players to the portal. They did fire Alex Grinch, which is a blessing. I don't understand how he keeps getting hired. Now he's hired on at Wisconsin. So Godspeed, Wisconsin. You're in trouble. I don't know. I think that USC could be in some trouble next year going in the Big Ten, especially the way they finished this year. But Lincoln Riley has made some changes. They did hire a new defensive coordinator. From UCLA. So that's UCLA had a good defense. Maybe that translates there. So we'll see what happens with USC moving forward. But yeah, pretty rough season for them considering what they had. Let's talk about one of our favorite teams in the Pac-12 this year, and they came on after a really tough loss early. They made some changes. Jedd Fisch decided, hey, I'm going with Fafita. I like what he brings. Deloro, I think it's a little bit injured, but I think it was more of, hey, something's got to change here. They went out and they won 10 games. They went 10-3, 7-2 in conference, and they had an over-under of 5.5. 20th ranked offense, 48 defense. They're built, in my opinion, that last year kind of like a Big Ten team. The way that they would play reminded me of watching games like that. Not your traditional Pac-12. Unless you're Utah. So that I really like them, especially when they made that move. I gave them a B+. You probably could give them an A or higher. I really liked what they did, but still that loss early to Mississippi State to me knocks them down. Just a hair. I mean, I'm talking like an 88. That's a B+. You're close, but just not A level just yet. So yeah, I like Arizona. Excited to see what they do next year.
Yeah, I'm with Arizona and Fifita staying, which is a phenomenal feat in and of itself, being able to hang on to him. It's a and darn well, whether it was publicized or not, everyone was reaching out to Fifita to see if he was wanting to enter the transfer portal.
Oh yeah.
And his buddy, the wide receiver, his name escapes me at this point in time, but the guy that he came in with, and I think he played high school ball with. Yeah, McMillan. Thank you. So yeah, those two guys staying is going to be huge for their offensive production. I'm really kind of excited to see how they do, because I really think that there's a potential for them to kind of jump right up into the Big 12 and really take it by storm. Mm-hmm. They've got a lot of momentum, and I really think that that's going to do well. And I think they're going to do well this season, in my opinion. So that's why I gave them a B. I think that they are going to be good this season. I think they're going in the right direction for sure.
Yeah, it's interesting to see with the new head coach coming in from San Diego State. Excuse me, not San Diego State, San Jose State. And just seeing that he was able to retain. Seems like Arizona's redoing their administration. They've got a new athletic director. They've got boosters that are supporting the program just out of spite for what Jedd Fisch, how they felt about him and leaving. Jedd Fisch, I guess, tried to bring a lot of the players over, but he only got really Jonah Coleman that I'm aware of, the running back, who I really liked. I thought he was a good back for Arizona. But yeah, it's just, it'll be interesting to see how they do going into the Big 12, like you said. It's a cool team. Friends on Twitter call it the wagon. We're on the wagon for Arizona. I'm not falling off that one. It's a cool team. Blake is having some technical issues, so
he's coming. He'll be back in a minute. He's just getting his stuff straight.
Yeah, so I'm gonna give you his grade, and we'll just keep rolling.
Yeah.
Let me pull it up real quick. Blake gave them an A, and I definitely see that grade for what they did. I mean, they had their over under was 5.5. They outperformed big time. So I think they hit that mark, and I could see giving them an A. But until we wait for Blake to get in, let's go ahead and move on. If he wants to talk about these teams, as once he gets back, he can do that. So we're going to go Oregon. Okay. Oregon was a team that high expectations. Bo Nix was back. They had talent. They had, everything set up pretty nicely. The schedule set up nicely for them. But still, they went into Husky Stadium, in Seattle, and they lost 36-33. It was a really tight game, but a lot of mistakes that were made, in my opinion, from being over aggressive. It was like watching, I alluded to it when I watched the Lions play against the 49ers. It was like watching Dan Lanning over again when Dan Campbell went for it too many times instead of, taking points. And that game was super frustrating. And then, of course, you go down into the Pac-12 championship game as a 10-point favorite, and you lose again to Washington. So I gave them a B+. Yeah, it was a strong season. Second offense, 22nd defense, but still the big games that mattered, they just couldn't finish it. So I gave them a big B+.
Well, yeah, actually, Brendan, for once in this entire show, I gave them the exact same grade you gave them, a B+ as well. So, yeah, they had a phenomenal season. Bo Nix was, everything that we kind of thought he was going to be from the previous year, and what I would say is that he's going to be doing good things in the NFL. I think he's going to be one of those guys that'll be what is the word, unsung, kind of fly under the radar, even though he is Bo Nix and he had a great season. I think that he's being looked at as not as good as maybe the top 4. Even like maybe even getting drafted outside of the first round is a possibility for him potentially. So that's where I think he'll be at. B+ is a good grade for Oregon, considering their expectations for themselves was really high. So that's where I feel they're going to be going forward.
Yeah, and again, they've got a loaded team coming in next year. They got some good players in the portal. They have a chance to do really well in the Big Ten in their first season, and most have them as probably top 2 in the contenders for the Big Ten. So they're primed, they're ready. They're a team that's built like a Big Ten team, so they should be just fine moving into that. Last team, final team, the conference champion, Washington. Again, over under of 9. When we started this, season in the previews, we were all like, okay, there's no way teams are going to get out of the Pac-12 unscathed. We just don't see it. Is it possible? Yeah, it's always possible. But I mean, when you looked at the schedule and the teams that had really good quarterbacks, you knew that teams were going to cause problems no matter what, the rest of the team had around them. There was teams that could upset you. They found a way every single week to win. And that was really remarkable to me. They, against Oregon, against, Washington State in the Apple Cup. Oregon again, they beat Texas, in the playoffs. And then they went to the national championship game and lost to the Wolverines. But I mean, just a great season for them. The 12th offense, but the 96 overall defense. So again, you saw that in the Michigan game too. They were giving up big runs but they made it. They got there. So I gave them an A. I've only given 1 A+, and I will only give 1 A+ on the season. That's like reserved for the national champion, in my opinion. That's the best a season can ever be. So that's, in my opinion. But Washington, hell of a season. That new stuff going on with Jedd Fisch. We'll see how they do moving forward in the Big Ten.
Yep.
I'm assuming we're on Washington now.
We are on Washington, bud.
Now, Blake,
I apologize.
No, you're good. If you want to, I think you missed Arizona and Oregon. If you just want to give your grades and maybe quick thoughts on them, go for it, man.
All right. So Arizona, I went with an A. Delora going out, Fafita coming in, sending him on the run he did, taking down some big teams. It's got to be rewarded. Get him an A. Oregon, we got a B+. I feel like they at times were overhyped. And I even was like that, kind of like how Trevor was with Colorado, especially early on. Their defense looked, destructive. They got a lot of pressure on teams, and then they was very efficient on offense. But then when it come down to having to make big plays, they couldn't really do it. And I mean, it showed against Washington. And we started wondering toward the end of the season when it came down to looking at, their plays that went over 20 yards. There wasn't many of them. Everything was 5, 8, 10-yard passes that the receivers ended up taking the distance. But as far as in the air passes, Nix just wasn't hitting guys downfield like Penix was. And which leads me to Washington. All throughout the season, I kept thinking, all right, this is the week they're going to get upset. They're going to get upset. And then it's like, all right, well, Oregon will beat them the second time. They should have beat them the first time. All right, well, Texas will beat them. And then Michigan, I was fairly confident Michigan would beat them because I knew that they wasn't going to be able to hang with the run game. But aside from the Michigan game, I mean, they found a way to win every single week. There was multiple times that the game come down to the wire and their guys just went out and did what they had to do, and they got the dub. So I gave them an A plus. That's not to say that, like I know I heard how you said you grade with the A plus. That's not comparing them to Michigan, saying that
Sure,
because Michigan's an A plus and Washington's an A plus, they're on the same level. They're obviously not. It's just for what Washington had, I feel like they did more with less than a lot of teams in college football. So I went with the A plus on them.
And I don't necessarily disagree with the A plus. I kind of hear both of your sides of it. Excuse me. I went with an A, only because I don't think I was as high as everybody else was on Washington most of the season, even though they went undefeated, which was great up until they met Michigan. And the only reason I really think that they lost to Michigan is because Michigan, and we've covered this before, but Michigan was built as a team as a whole to beat teams that are built like a Washington team was built. High flying offense, okay defense. In Washington's case, they were actually less than okay on the defensive side of the ball. And when it came right down to it, that's why they got an A for me, is because their defense did not match their offensive production. Therefore, I just feel like they weren't a complete team. So their season was great. They had a phenomenal season. I'm giving them an A, which is a pretty high grade for a Pac-12 team in general. And for Washington, if they were to be a little bit more balanced, I think that they would have been able to get past that hump and get that A plus for me, and maybe be the national champions right now if they put a little more focus in on defense. But yeah, that's just the way I look at it for now for them. Great season though.
Yeah, really a wonderful season by them. I mean, hell, they went to the national championship. Not a lot of teams even can say that. So great season. I still think they had a strong defense at times, but they got gashed in the ground a lot, and that's something they really got to work on moving into the the Big Ten. They've got a lot to work on. They've had losses in the portal. They lost their entire staff. They brought in a new one. So Washington, you got to be ready because it's going to be a hell of a season next year for you going in the Big Ten. It might be the TCU situation next year. I don't know. Maybe not as severe, but we're going to talk about the Big 12 next week. There's a lot of, again, strange teams in the Big 12 that would beat a good team, and then they lose to somebody you don't expect. So that'll be an interesting one to talk about. I'm excited to get into that one. But yeah, that's it on the Pac-12, guys. Really good conference this year. I thought there was obviously the bottom feeders were nothing, but the mid-range teams I thought were all solid, and then the top heavy were strong teams and got into the national championship game. So great for the final year on on the Pac-12, which is no more. They're now the Pac-2 with just lonely.
I'm not even sure they can be considered the Pac-2 at this point.
Yeah, I don't. It's a damn shame, but yeah, they're done for. Washington State and Oregon State will be playing with the Mountain West going into 2024 until they figure out what to do, or if the ACC implodes, which there's rumor of that going on. So yeah, look for next week. We're going to talk again the Big 12. We'll put out the grades on that. We got 7-on-7s coming out, so more content coming your way. Make sure you subscribe and share, comment. We like to talk football, so please comment. If you got something to say, if you think we suck, tell us, and we'll tell you why you suck. If you think we're great, we'll give you a high five and something like that. I don't know, but either way, hit us up, holler at us. Trevor, any final thoughts before we roll on?
Just don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to us, and give us a shout out. Leave a comment, leave a question that we will get to them at one of the 7-on-7s. If you leave a question about your team, your conference, whatever the case, whatever question you got, throw it on the YouTube, throw it on Spotify, throw it on Twitter. Let us know. and we will get to you. I promise.
Exactly. We're on every platform you can think of. All right. So holler at us on those. Again, we appreciate you guys. Look for more content coming your way. All right. Have a good one.